We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion, over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hey, everybody. This is Smiles Lewis.
And Mark Jackson, joining you from Austin, of course.
And this is the November 11th, 2020 edition of Anomaly-NOW, the weekly news roundup show for the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, a.k.a. Scientific Anomaly Institute. Yes, transmitting to you right from the heart of the Texas, sometimes referred to as the belly of the beast. Good day to everyone, and I don't know if it's actually appropriate to say Happy Veterans Day. I guess it is. I mean, or Happy Remembrance Day. It's certainly a somber holiday, such as it is, and I certainly want to pay my respects to all the people, men and women, and others who've served for the armed forces, and we're going to have some interesting discussion here tonight, as always. And I've got some news articles that we've shared through our Flipboard. You can go to anomalyarchives.org, and down on the right-hand side, you can see the latest links and the link to the Flipboard page, which has the collection of everything that we've done there. And if you go to the Anomaly Archives, you can find out more about, well, actually, there's no information there yet. But we're on the verge of announcing information about our Anomaly Archive Streamathon 2020. This is our emergency fundraiser that we're going to be doing starting Saturday, November 21st. That's going to be the first Saturday of a series of Saturdays, 5, possibly 6 Saturdays between, well, not quite now, but between the 21st and the end of 2020. And we hope that you'll tune in for that, and we hope that you'll consider donating to the Anomaly Archives. We really need your help. And in the meantime, you can, like I said, go over to our Flipboard over at, well, it's a really long URL, so just go to the Anomaly Archives website and click the link there, and you can find out more about the Flipboard, and that's where we collect all these amazing articles. Some great stuff that we've come across this past week. Some of them not necessarily brand spanking new from this week, but really interesting headlines like physicist says the entire universe might be a neural network. This other article from, I think, back in March 2020, Foo Fighters. Apparently Dave Grohl had to sign some kind of non-disclosure agreement regarding his house because, well, weird stuff happened there, and they're trying to sell it. So I know that's been a recurring joke amongst haunted house folks, this idea of, well, you know, if the house is haunted, do you have to disclose it? I think in some states you may actually by law have to report that, just like I think in some states if there's been a murder or suicide, you may have to.
It's got to be California.
So, of course, yes, Dave Grohl being the legendary drummer from Nirvana turned guitarist and lead frontman for Foo Fighters, obviously a very paranormally interested fellow. When you name your band Foo Fighters, it can't just be, oh, it sounds interesting. Like Foo Fighters is a very specific UFO reference, of course. So, We also have a link to something that I'm not sure about the copyright status of, but there's this 1977 documentary, UFOs Are Here, that somebody uploaded in its entirety that apparently features Spielberg, J. Allen Hynek, and Jacques Vallée. Very interested in watching that. But the one article that I do actually want to comment about today that I've not quite finished reading it, but it's this article from over at Parallax UAP website. That's it's a blogspot website, and this, I forget the guy's name, but I guess it's his the author's name is eluding me, but he's the manager of this website. And of course, we've referenced many times the continuing to develop story of the Pentagon's UFO program that allegedly investigated everything from metals recovered from UFO sightings or alleged UFO crashes, as well as this infamous Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah that the contractor Bob Bigelow had bought and was investigating. And of course, these infamous UFO Navy videos, these UAP videos, that have been the talk of the world, the net, the mainstream media. Even it really has kind of taken the veil back, and the veil of ridicule, the ridicule curtain, the laughter curtain has been kind of pulled back a little, and people seem to be taking these subjects a lot more seriously now. But of course, it's not all.
And on the topic of Skinwalker Ranch, Miles, too, just to be clear about the Bigelow statement, he once was the owner of it. He no longer is the proprietor of the property. And some of the information contained in this article that alludes to experiments and potential exposure to certain technologies to the employees unknowingly to them occurred under the ownership of Bigelow. But today, we're not sure if that's the case. In fact, the current proprietor, again, is unknown to the public. It's confidential.
Yeah, I believe the person actually has been exposed or has allowed themselves to come out. But yes, originally there was a lot of hesitancy there. Of course, there's lots of speculation, but I appreciate you making that clarification, because he does not own it anymore. And this article is definitely putting a very skeptical, some would say very negative spin on the entire affair, which seems designed to imply that there's something nefarious or less than stellar when it comes to the scientific investigations revolving around this particular ranch project that was funded through this military program. And just a little bit here. What other researchers and I discovered, quoting from the article, was that BAASS, BAASS, was primarily investigating the UFO phenomenon on U.S. soil and abroad. Whether BAASS did so on behalf of the U.S. government and whether the DIA was fully aware of the extent of BAASS UFO and paranormal research activities has to be proven. Yes, that is true. One of the most mysterious elements of this whole story was the existence of an alleged paranormal and UFO hotspot, Skinwalker Ranch. Basically, what it goes on to describe is the fact that apparently DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency personnel, visited the site, and that this site was part of the military contract, or the government contract to the civilian research organization to the tune of $22 million. And a lot has been made, a lot of hay has been made about the things that they found there. Very strange reports of mysterious lights and strange reports of dark, scary figures that seem to feed into this idea of the Skinwalker legend, this Native American folklore involving the idea of variously shamans and other types of entities that can shapeshift, often taking on the form of large canids or like werewolf type critters. And there's just so much to unpack, but it does come down to, at least in this writer's interview here at Parallax UAP, that there's nothing much to it. And of course, a lot of skeptics have been saying this all along, that there's nothing that's been reported there that can't be explained rationally in some sort of scientific or down to earth fashion, going so far as to suggest that some of the lights that people had been reporting seeing were in fact just the classic misidentification of dust by digital cameras that creates quote unquote orbs. And certainly there is that aspect of the orb phenomena that just seems to be like some kind of weird artifact, or just the way that digital cameras interact with dust in the air. But it gets a little more disturbing though if you contemplate, and this is, I suspect, where this article is going. Like I said, I haven't actually gotten to the end of it yet, but recalling good friend Miguel Romero, aka RPJ, Red-Pill-Junkie, who writes occasionally for dailygrail.com, wrote this article back in May of 2018 called Were Humans Used as Guinea Pigs at Skinwalker Ranch as part of the secret Pentagon UFO program? And it's a very interesting speculative article about this idea. And one of the things that this Parallax UAP article goes into is just, again, this mundane aspect of security personnel in rotation going to and from the Skinwalker Ranch location for security purposes, and to some degree, some small degree, doing a little bit of experimentation, but basically just providing protection for the ranch and for those others, those NIDS employees, those BAASS employees, those Bob Bigelow employees, all of those organizations being his, coming and going and doing their own research, as well as these DIA, these government intelligence types who were going there. But it really plays everything as if it's all just blown out of proportion. And I'm not making that claim. I don't know. I wasn't there. As a fan of Jacques Vallée, who in his most recent volume 4 of his Forbidden Science journals that cover the 1990s, when he was working with Bob Bigelow and NIDS and was privy to all of this stuff as it was unfolding, he too has a very skeptical bent, but everybody knows that he's a believer in the sense that he thinks that there is something legitimate to the UFO phenomena, that it likely represents some sort of non-human intelligence, not necessarily extraterrestrial. But he's also somebody who's keenly aware of this idea of the UFO as cover for a variety of things, not least of which could be experiments, either for psychological warfare purposes or as is suggested in this article by Red-Pill-Junkie over at Daily Grail from back in 2018, that in fact the security guards could have basically been acting as human guinea pigs to try to record the biological and psychological effects of whatever was going on out there at the ranch. Now, again, just to juxtapose this other article, again, as far as I could tell from as far as I got, it didn't seem to go into, maybe it does right here. It says Bartell and Marx documented the encounter. They took pictures of the prints, and Marc even took a DNA sample and secured it. Actually, that's not what I was thinking it might have been saying. But this idea, again, that there was monitoring of the physiology of the security guards. And it's just a very provocative idea, and obviously needs more investigation, and I don't know that any lawsuits have been filed or anybody feels that they were directly damaged by the activities that were going on there, the phenomenon that was being investigated and experienced. But it's a fascinating idea, and anybody who knows me knows that my areas of interest overlap in this realm of a true UFO phenomenon that likely represents some kind of non-human intelligence or some kind of interaction with our own collective unconscious, etc., or yada, yada, yada. So many different ideas.
But I think that's what they're testing. That very overlap, Miles, is exactly what they're testing. Go back no further than the amount of funding and who received the funding. It is not clear to this day exactly the relationship between Bigelow and the AATIP program. Ironically, they were both funded to the tune of $22 million. And there was a lot of unpacking done by the Drive and some of the other folks as to, did this contract really start out as a Bigelow Aerospace program that was taking place at Skinwalker Ranch and then kind of morphed into this more threat identification program to preserve the funding. I've heard RPJ on different programs talk about this, and there's this very strong line of evidence that what was actually taking place at Skinwalker was the measurement of, like you're saying, the physiology, and then the conscious effects of, these effects of in high electromagnetic fields, for example, or direct energy weapon, all kinds of non-visible technologies, and an unwilling and unknowing person by which measure the effects of a variety of exotic technologies. Some of them have had conscious altering byproducts, and in some cases, manifestations, visualizations, etc. So, I don't think in all my research, it's clear today the relationship between the two programs and how much reinforce each other. Now, I know Chris Mellon at one point had some of the original AATIP websites back from 2018 available. They've since been taken down. And many of the technologies cited on that original website by him, that again has been taken down, deal very much with conscious altering technologies and the effects that those technologies have on actual perception. So I think you're spot on that not only is this murky, but there's a strong line of evidence, and RPJ laid it all out there, that there's a good possibility that these were unwilling, innocent civilians that were caught up in yet another kind of nefarious, government program to measure the effects of these technologies.
And sorry, I got distracted by, before we went on the air, I was hearing reports that YouTube may be up, down, left, right, and uncertainly working tonight. And it does appear that there may be some difficulty. So for those of you who've stuck with it and managed to see any of this tonight, I thank you. And I think this is the link that you had sent me that references.
Yeah, so if you scroll down, Miles, let's go down to slide number 9, purportedly slide number 9 from this article here by the Mind Sublime. This guy did research, followed a Twitter link to Chris Mellon's original email. You can go.
There we go. I think that's it.
Yeah, let's go to slide 9. So look at some of these different study areas, quote unquote study areas, that may very well have started out at Skinwalker Ranch. Spatial temporal translation, signal reduction technology integration, human interface, emphasis on unconventional. Let's go down one more. I think that was 7. Okay. Let's go down to 9 real quick. Actually, stop at 8. This is very interesting. Go back up to 8.
Okay.
And look at some of the usual suspects. Here's all the technical reports that he originally had listed from the site. And everybody, we'll put the link up so you can go back and look at these later. But you're going to see the usual suspects here. Davis, Earth Tech, is just sprinkled throughout here. Put off, of course. And again, go at that at your leisure. But let's really quickly, I know we're short on time. Let's go to slide 9 then. Psychotronic weapons, number 1. Cognitive human interface. Penetration of solid surfaces, instantaneous sensor disassembly, alteration, manipulation of biological organisms, anomalies in space-time construction. Folks, this is the original rundown of the AATIP program as it was transitioning out of the Bigelow Skinwalker Ranch program. And of course, this was stripped out now because they want to focus a lot more on the aerial threat of UAPs than these human consciousness studies that were clearly on the agenda at one point. Anyway, a lot to unpack there, I know, but don't take it at the surface. If you're going to really look into these things, take it a little bit further. Thanks, Miles.
Absolutely. And yeah, we'll post that link to the Mind Sublime article from back in January, Advanced Aerospace Threat Assessment. So yeah, and I was telling you before we came on the air, I just finished watching, kind of shifting gears here, but this series on, I believe it's Showtime, called Homecoming, that is about, without giving too much away, this idea of traumatized war veterans coming home and working with a private contractor to deal with their PTSD, but not really being given the full knowledge and consent of what exactly they're signing up for. And it as one might imagine, PTSD experimentation, trying to reduce trauma, one way would be, of course, to change or eliminate the memories of those traumatic experiences. And I really don't want to give too much away at all, but basically, it's the first season stars. I'm blanking on her name now. Pretty Woman, the actress.
Julia Roberts.
Thank you, Julia Roberts stars and also is, I believe, an executive producer on both seasons. And I would just highly recommend the show. Yes, Mark.
Miles. Yeah. Do they talk about the mind-altering or conscious-altering drugs, for example, that they may have tried to administer to them, et cetera? Because, there is a kind of a sordid history in those type of substances with veterans. I don't know much about it, frankly, but it sounds very much cut from the same cloth as some of that research I've come across.
Yes, and that's very specifically the nature of the story here. There is a big corporation called Geist that is behind this homecoming program. Yes, the program in the show is provided by a pharmaceutical company. Thank you, Megan. I highly recommend it. I don't really want to go into it anymore, but it parallels this idea again of the government getting involved in something that, of course, they want. And this is where I'm trying to tread lightly. I certainly respect any person who signs up for the military, even though I have very strong feelings about the nature of foreign policy and war and the war machine. But it pains me to think and to know that the people that so often end up ground down by the actions taken in these wars and military actions, which is what we're supposed to be thinking about today, are so often treated as chattel and don't get the follow-up help that they need. And I'm going to do a callback to our previous show when talking about these allegations of this acoustic or microwave weapon that supposedly the Russian FSB have been using against our diplomats and their families around the world, allegedly. And how some of those people aren't getting those government employees, those military personnel, these intelligence agents are not getting the support that they need. So bottom line, I'm just find this a powerful subject, and I would like people to contemplate that for this Remembrance Day, for this Veterans Day, and maybe we can all do something to ease people's suffering and provide better for the people who have chosen a path to protect us and to protect the ideals that we hold near and dear. And I guess I should probably just end it right there. So, and hey, Carlos, we were told never to go to the shrink. Fastest way to lose your security clearance and then booted out. Yes. Thank you, Carlos. Exactly. And before, we're getting close already to the end of the show, and we haven't really covered that much news. I just want to also remind folks again, we are going to be launching our new emergency fundraiser starting Saturday, November 21st. We will be posting all the information very soon in the next couple of days. The advertising campaign, such as it is, should be kicking in next week, a week before we launch our Screamathon 2020, which is going to be hours and hours each Saturday of lectures, weird variety hour video material, some music.
But you've shared a sneak peek with me of this lineup, Miles, and I know it's a potential lineup at this point, and things are coming together. But folks, really, the community is rallying together for this. Just stay posted, because when the lineup does come out, I think you're going to recognize a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar content, and hopefully we just keep going deeper and deeper on some of this stuff for you.
Yeah. So I can announce a few people. there's several who have announced who've tentatively said yes. It's just a matter of locking in the logistics. But one of the newcomers to the field, Zilia Edgar, she's going to be speaking. Local Texas cryptozoologist Ken Gerhard is going to be speaking. Walter Bosley will be speaking about the breakaway civilization and or the Del Shao airship mystery. And so many others. I mean, we've got between 20 and 25 different people who've agreed to participate, and an amazing array of Fortean anomalous, conspiracy, weird, high strangeness movies and videos that we'll be featuring. And we'll also be featuring a lecture by Miguel Romero, Red-Pill-Junkie, who I'm going to show it to everybody. Here we go. It's the first time we're going to be showing this publicly. This is some artwork that I had commissioned for the Anomaly Archives by good old Red Pill Miguel. And this is our cool new poster and T-shirt design for the Anomaly Archives. He did a great job. He's so easy to work with. And you can see here some of the ideas. I had a really rough idea, and he went with it, and just as he always does, did a great job. And again, the full picture here with the library shelves, and the even though I know a lot of my librarian friends are offended by the shushing librarian image, I had to go with it, especially as a gray alien. And he even worked in all these great titles. You can't quite see it here, but each of these books is a classic in the field. And there's just so much detail here. There's even, I think, down here at the bottom, it looks like there's a little mummy it may be like a Fiji mermaid, but I was thinking it looked more like the Roswell Slides mummy that friends and I had debunked. And there's even a Kelly Hopkinsville green goblin there, and a MIB and everything. Anyway, great work, Miguel. You can find out more about him at his website, Absurd by Design. I believe it's absurdbydesign.wordpress.com, or if you just search for Red-Pill-Junkie RPJ Absurd by Design, you'll find more of his work. And he's just a great guy and a great artist. So anyway, we've got a couple more minutes. Where was the other articles that of note we might want to comment on? You sent me something. I have not linked it yet here, but we've got a number of really great cryptozoology links. Tallest, rarest bird in North America sighted in Texas. Pride of Bristol Bay catching the Yamanan lake monster. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I think that's up in Alaska. And there's this story about the cannibalistic fish that washes up on Padre Island. No need to be afraid. Just don't eat it. Apparently, it has some venomous toxin on its flesh. But ton more articles over at our Flipboard page, which again you can find at our website, anomalyarchives.org. But the thing that you sent me, I haven't linked here yet, and that's the latest update from the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies.
Yeah, so the SCU has their quarterly update out. I think it's 1.3. They welcome a new member aboard, and they're also talking about some self-build out sky scanning technology. You can become a part of some open source software where you can help correlate objects in the sky. If you are a night watcher and you choose to purchase some of these, the camera entry level is only like $300. So there's some great, steps, links, schematics there if you're into some advanced sky watching and are interested in these topics. I know that they also have their latest streaming video coming out in mid-November. I think it's maybe late November, where they're really looking at the Fermi equation and trying to take a really hard look by some very, very smart people at what the statistical probability is of other sort of civilizations not only existing, but this notion that there's technology by which we could encounter them at some point in one form or another. So if you're interested there, SCU, the Scientific Coalition for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, again, one of the largest collection of scientific minds that have kind of put their names out there. Some have not, but let me tell you, there's a lot of great thinking and calculating and research that's going on there if you want to kind of stay above some of the normal people that are on rotation out there in the various talk shows and whatnot. The SCU will always be there for the very serious and scientifically inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, for those who aren't familiar, SCU kind of came about partly because of frustration with the world's largest UFO civilian research organization, MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. Again, like with so many big organizations, lots of really good people, but sometimes there's the problems with such large organizations, and MUFON had been migrating towards more sensationalistic type promotional campaigns, and with their reality TV show and the lectures that they were bringing to the fore at their annual symposium, which usually was trying to be more scientific. And so it was time for those who have a more scientific bent and who aren't interested in the more exotic aspects of the UFO phenomena and related phenomena. So I certainly, while I'm somebody who wants to be more inclusive of all the different strange things, and that's exactly what the archives encompasses, is this wide range of all these different subjects that that are part of the UFO lore, and it's valiant and honorable that folks like Robert Powell and others with the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies are trying to confine their laser-like focus on the more respectable and perhaps in some ways the easier to grapple with than trying to just dive whole hog into things like alien abductions or the contactee phenomenon or the nature of consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. But they've got a great and growing group of scientists associated with them, and still, I'm hoping that we can get some representation there for within our streamathon from SCU. So hopefully, we'll have more to say on that very soon. And one last thought on that. I was just talking with a friend who was with me when Robert Powell gave a lecture here in Austin a few years ago, right before the big MUFON conference. And he was talking about this amazing, what's called the dumbbell or the barbell Canadian UFO sighting. That's a fascinating case. Unfortunately, that video of that lecture got taken down, but maybe we'll be seeing it again soon, I hope. But maybe not. Anyway, so again, stay tuned for more information coming soon on the Anomaly Archives Emergency Fundraiser Streamathon 2020. And thank you, Marc, so much for joining me tonight, as always. And thank you to everybody who has joined us for tonight's news roundup.
Thanks, Miles.
Have a good evening.
All right, everybody.